Welcome to No Gate Fees with Brent Martineau on the Action Sports Jax 24/7 Network.
What a night in high school baseball last night around here, and that is Aiden Arnett from Trinity Christian with a big-time moment. This is why you play the game. This is why you have fun playing high school sports. Memories like that, and Arnett's probably had a couple of them, but maybe none bigger than that. A walk-off home run to complete a 9-2 comeback. They were down 9-2, and win 10-9 in the bottom of the seventh. That was a 2-run homer for Trinity Christian, and pretty sweet swing there out to the left center. Yeah, like no doubter too. That's always fun when you can hit a no doubter, and that's not like a small yard. I don't think at Trinity Christian. It's not overly big either, but it's not a small one. He got all of that. Incredible comeback. They were down 9-2 in the sixth inning. And we're already talking about Game 3. I mean, why not, right? I mean, you're basically thinking that way. And they would have had Tyler Ellis on the mound. They've got so much depth. It would be really hard to beat Trinity 2 games in a row. Well, the number one team in the state delivered, and they don't have to take that bus ride to Bozeman out there over the next couple of days. So congratulations.
Bozeman's the school that's been here 3 straight times?
They are, yeah. So 3 straight times to Jacksonville to play Bowles. That ended up going 3 games. Now, Bowles was out there for the first 2. Then they played at UNF, and they beat Bowles. Then they come back to play Bishop Snyder, 2 games here. Snyder goes out there for a Game 3. Bozeman wins the series. And then they were here for the last 2 nights against Trinity Christian. It would have went to a Game 3 at Bozeman. But you might have seen my tweet. It's like it probably cost them somewhere, I mean, realistically, between $15,000 and $20,000 to play these playoff games. And that is going to be a significant part of this. Like, how do they mitigate that to some degree? Cost is one thing that's very costly. I think
it's probably 10 times what their assistant coaches make combined.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point. Yeah, I didn't even think about it in that context. And, listen, what a lot of people do, and they do it kind of the right way around here in this respect, a lot of folks will get charter buses out to because it might be a 5-hour ride, and I'll tell you this: the kids love getting on a charter bus in high school, right? I mean, it's a big deal to them. Mm-hmm. Like that's part of the experience. Like I remember my kid, she wanted to play on the road rather than at home. I'm like, what are we doing here? We got a home game. She's kind of bummed about it. It's like I want to go on the road in the playoffs because that experience of which again goes back to the experiential nature of this. That's something even in travel ball and stuff you don't do.
Right.
So like that
you're
makes
in the car with your parents or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. So that makes high school unique in that sense. And it also means you've made it to a different time of year. And maybe by the time you're a senior, if you've done it a couple of times, it's not a big deal anymore. But I think to some of the kids, it's a big deal to be able to hop on a bus and go. Now, what else is a big deal is the cost. Yeah. I mean, that is like a charter bus for I don't know even how long, 6 to 8 hours or whatever it is. I think we're talking a couple to a few $1,000s. When you go on a longer trip, that could be like a 5-hour and a 5-hour back type deal. Well, now you have to get 2 drivers for that, right? Because the rules don't allow the driver to do both legs. So now you're adding more expense onto it. Then you're talking about hotel rooms. So again, I'm like the biggest advocate for this best of 3. I think it's the right way to do it. I think what we just saw actually over the last couple of weeks, I feel good about the teams that are going. And they earned it, and there's some depth to them, and they found ways to win outside of one arm. I really think what we saw transpire last night at St. John's Country Day was it could have been a great example of why you play the 3,
right? Or
even Trinity for that example if they had lost. But like St. John's Country Day, who wins on a walk-off in the 9th inning to sweep the series and go back to the Final Four. So big congrats to Trinity and St. John's Country Day as we get into the show today. No Gate Fees presented by Nimnick Buick GMC, Baker's Sports, Perfect Rack Billiards, and Republic Services. Brent Martineau, Jason Hamby. A couple more shows on the year to go, and now only 2 teams still left in baseball. We'll talk some softball a lot on the show today as well. But St. John's Country Day, to me, the way they ended up kind of being because of injuries, they are the reason why you play a best of 3. They have Braden Harris, who's one of the top arms in the state. And honestly, Trinity has Aaron Watson, who we've had on the show, one of the top arms in the state, is going to be like a top 50 draft pick probably. And like those are gimme wins almost. There's nothing automatic in sports, but they are almost, when those guys are on the bump, it's about a 95% win rate. I don't care who you are. You can be scared and not sleep at night and think of all the bad things that might happen if you're Lucas or Murphy, the coaches of those teams. But when those dudes are on the mound, you know you're about to win the game. Give me 2-3 runs max or minimum, and we got this. So that's how good and dominant they are. So anyway, I was there the other night, and Braden Harris pitched, and he pitched terrific. He's really got good stuff. And they went 11-1 over UC. But I basically said it there, and this is the way UC set it up, I think, Hamby, is like, hey, we kind of know. They're not throwing the game by any means. They just know they're up against it in that game. And so their strategic plan is, okay, we'll bring Worthington back in game 2. He's our guy, and he's now healthy again, which is good for them. And then we'll just roll the dice and see what happens in game 3. We might have to outslug them, but with the injuries that St. John's Country Day have, they really don't have an arm that's going to dominate you after Harris. And that is exactly what happened. UC got out to a 7-2 lead. Worthington was pitching really well. And to the credit of St. John's Country Day,
got him out of there.
They were able to get him out of there. They also were able to claw back, get a couple runs, give themselves a chance. They tied the game up because of really some walks and situational hitting in the 7th. They go to the 9th, couple more walks, big base hit. They used 5 pitchers. I didn't even know Chandler Dantzler was pitching. He pitched an inning. I didn't know he pitched.
Had a baby.
So they both
kitchen inning.
Both catchers in the game last night actually took off the gear and pitched in the game in extra innings or in the late innings. So, I mean, that's what the 3-game series does.
Right.
It challenges your team.
Right.
And it doesn't just, hey, we got a dominant arm. In some cases, who transferred over. Like, okay, that shouldn't be it. But then there's the expense part. I think a game 3 would have been really interesting in that St. John's Country Day UC, because UC can hit it now.
Yeah.
I don't know what else they were throwing. I'm not sure. I don't know if they were trying to save like Bubba Crouch, the catcher, to pitch in that game. I don't know who they were going to pitch, because he's up to around like upper 80s. And but the field's unique at UC.
Yep.
The place would have been rocking. I'll give you another example. Clay lost last night. The story on Arnold is they have 2 stud arms. Clay had come back in the 7th inning, and if they were to hang on and win that game, they ended up losing in 9 innings. They would have had a game 3 at their place, and they would have had the advantage over the number 1 seed in Arnold, and that place would have been rocking for sure. I can tell you Clay would have been rocking.
No doubt.
I'm assuming UC would have been rocking. And I would have liked to see both game 3s just from a baseball perspective, especially Clay's perspective. Would have been nice to see them get it done, Hamby.
Yeah, when you go to the Bozeman thing, I wanted to touch on that one more time. I wonder if we're going to get to a point where a school says, hey,
we're not going.
We can't. We literally can't. You know, when you're talking, is Bozeman a public school or private school?
It's a good question. I think it's a public school from what I've heard. I had never heard of them until this year.
Right.
And now I'm seeing them in all sports. I don't know if they're a new school. I haven't done the research on it, probably should. But they're out, like, I think, toward the Panhandle. And they're kind of in the middle of nowhere, is what I understand. But they get, I heard the baseball program, they're able to attract kids there for their baseball program.
Oh, yeah, they're Panama City. So
they're way out, but I think they're not, like, right in Panama City. I think they're kind of like in a more rural part of Panama City. And so it's not a big school. Obviously, it's a lower classification. I think it is a public school, but they're able to get a lot of those baseball kids, even in Panama City, to kind of come out to that program. That's what I heard. I really don't know that much about it. That's what I've heard, so I'm repeating it. But I hadn't even heard of them until this year. I don't know how new the school is.
Right. But, I mean, I guess there's going to become a time where a public school says, hey, we can't come to, who's the lower seed 6 times in 3 weeks.
It's crazy.
It's just not
It's
possible.
not sustainable.
Again, I mean, you think about what some of these schools, just what they're able to do a lot to the budget for the whole year. Like, that would be more in 3 weeks than they spent the whole year.
In a lot of things, right? And this isn't football. In football, first of all, you're not doing a best of 3. It's going to be 1 trip out. At a max 3 trips out, and let's be honest, football's bringing a lot of money in usually at most places because they're getting the gate. I mean, you're not getting that kind of gate at baseball and softball as much as we love it. So Paxton softball, who we'll talk about in just a little bit, we need sub-regionals. Win your sub-regional, then one big travel for a regional final. I think I'd be okay with that. I understand that. I don't know if it's it does it.
How would that work with the seating?
Well, seating becomes important, but also the donkey becomes important.
Right.
In baseball more than softball, the donkey can always throw in softball. You get the big one, the big arm, they can throw every game. But in baseball, you're really trying to eliminate that part where you've got one dude. And really in high school, like if you're facing a dude, the other team doesn't have much of a chance. Like I know it's sports and they might win, but the win percentage is really low.
Right.
You can have a better team, and that's what this was meant to solve. And I think in many respects, the actual competition of it has played out really well. I just think the logistics and the dollars of it are going to be pretty interesting. So I don't fully know what I think that's probably Coach Brown saying about the sub-regional and how you would play it out.
Yeah,
but if we're talking about one game in the quarters and one game in the semis, I get it. I think that's a path to get to the regional final where then you have a best of three. I would also probably promote at that point, if you do it that way, then I think even the Final Four is goofy to me. Like it's a win or go home.
Right.
I think that if we made it this far on best of three, maybe it should be best of three.
Mm-hmm.
Or the Final Four can be some kind of double elimination tournament. Like, I don't know how you do it. But it is kind of weird that the regionals, we've gone best of three, best of three, best of three. Okay, well, guess what? I pretty much can guarantee, I'm not guaranteeing you, and block your ears, Lucas and Murphy, Coach Lucas and Coach Murphy. But don't you feel really good that St. John's Country Day and Trinity Christian are going to a state championship? They got their guys on the mound in the semis. Who's beating them?
Right.
Now, maybe there's somebody that is going to beat them, but I feel really good. I think it's really like, okay, we know what we're doing in that game. Can we get through that next game?
Sure.
Again, I think but that's what we're trying to avoid is being able to kind of pencil in a team because they got one big arm. And that big arm, by the way, has a lot of pressure on him and still has to deliver with all due respect to that arm. I thought that's a different standpoint to be in. But, Hamby, I don't know. The idea is to find the best teams.
Right.
Teams. Not the best player, the best teams. Goes back to the Hunter Barco rule, if this is how we got here. And not to say Bowles wasn't the best team, but it was hard to tell. They'd had Barco for 4 straight years, and he was dominating people. And they made it to the state championship and won a few. I don't know if you just play the single game in the quarters and the semis, but you do the best of three in the regionals. Did we find the best teams? Maybe you do.
Or maybe you just play the single game in the quarter. And then the semis is 2 out of 3. And the regional finals 2 out of 3. At least you shorten it a little bit that way. That saves you at least one trip,
Yeah. Let me ask you this. And I don't think, I'm talking off the top of my head here. So many like conference tournaments, and we know this in the travel ball world and everything else, you get an 8-team bracket, right? You play it out, and maybe it's a double elimination thing, I would think. Could you do that? Could you centrally locate this thing in the region and keep people for like 3 days? And I guess that's more expensive because now you're traveling everybody.
Yeah.
Instead of traveling 4. But I don't know if you break it out.
But
like, then you do really, but also it could be done in like a week.
I get it, but then you really have no gate. Like nobody's making any money, and I don't know how much of it they care about that.
I don't know either. I'll have to ask. I haven't asked that question. But
I would assume that that's still a priority at some level for them. For there to be somebody's getting home games, right?
Yeah, and listen, the crowds are usually pretty good or better at. But I mean,
we've talked about we wish that the state Final Four there would be a way for those could be home games.
No, I get it
because like we've said, I mean,
yeah,
it's packed and it's packed and it's packed, and you go to the Final Four, you're in a stadium that seats 10,000 and there's 200 people there and it feels dead.
Yeah, no, that's
what
fair.
Just happened?
I think that's a fair point, and I'm probably talking out of both sides of my mouth if I say that way because I like the home atmospheres. I'm not necessarily sure. I've always been like, oh, they need to make that money. I don't know how much money you're making at a home gate. I just know the atmosphere is better than a normal game. But I don't know if it's more about the expense of money than the what you get at a gate, I think. So anyway, we're going to keep tweaking this thing. I've got a feeling. I do think this is good. Like I think the whole format is good. I just don't know if it's sustainable. I'm just trying to be honest. Like I'm kind of competing against myself here, and just trying to be realistic from like an administrative standpoint. I get the concern, and guess what? Bus travel and all these bus companies and everything else, it ain't getting cheaper. Sooner or later, you're going to get high schools that are probably like, why don't we just buy a bus? In the long term, is it better? Well, what county's ponying up that kind of money? You know, again, that would go back to the private schools. Do we have Coach on in a minute? I want to. So anyway, let's go backwards here for a second and just make sure we congratulate Trinity Christian. They're on to the Final Four. They don't play for 2 weeks. What's up with that? I forget how to play baseball in 2 weeks. They don't play for 2 weeks. That's a little goofy to me. St. John's Country Day will play next week in the state Final Four, trying to go 4 out of 5 years now. And this comment for me about St. John's Country Day and what they did specifically last night. I thought, look, I watched that game from home. I think that was a culture win. Like, I think that's like, you're coaching now, Hamby, and there are a lot of good programs in the area on various sports. I think that win right there was not necessarily, hey, we're better than you or whatever. I think that was, we know how to win, and we find a way to win. And we see that in sports, right? And by the way, St. John's Country Day might be better. They could play however many times against UC, and maybe they do beat them more. I don't know. I was at the game Monday. I knew they had the better arm. Like, that was a dominant arm. That was pretty obvious. Outside of that, I don't know how much better St. John's Country Day is than UC. UC's got a good baseball team.
Right.
Hey, a lot of good players. And I felt like that was, we know how to win this time of year as a program, and there's a domino effect to that, right? We've seen that at bowls in various sports. I think we see it now at like a Stoneman Douglas in baseball, where I'm not sure they're as talented last year versus this year, but and we know this for a fact. Like, St. John's Country Day lost some stuff last year. Mm-hmm. Like, they are not as good on paper, and I think they would all admit this, as they were last year when they won the state title. But I also think you can make the case the state title team wasn't as good as like a previous year rendition when they didn't win.
They might have been best in 2022.
Right? So there's a lot that goes into it, but this is more of this is a compliment of, I think, what that said to me yesterday, that win was like, hey, that's a team that knows how to win and knows how to win this time of year, and the expectations to win. And credit to Tom Lucas, they've built that. And I know they get criticism because they're a private school and get people, but they built that. They have built that. And that's a credit to the program, and we see that in all levels of sports when that happens. We got Coach on? We're going to talk some softball scores in just a bit as things got going last night, really get going tonight and into tomorrow, so we'll get you to the state playoffs in softball in just a bit. But we have special guests on the college ranks here today, and that is Joe Pound, the head coach at St. John's River, and defending national champs, and now Junior College Division II South District Championship is getting underway here soon, and he joins us from down in Palatka. I think that's where you are because you're hosting this thing. Joe, how you doing?
I'm doing good, Brent. How are you?
I'm fantastic. Not as good as you, though. Heck of a year for coming off that national championship season. Got to be pretty proud of what you guys did, and man, you're rolling off a bunch of wins in a row, playing really good ball right now.
Yeah, no, we're playing with a lot of confidence, and getting into that time of year, we have some experience from last year, so things are going well. Girls are excited about the opportunity.
I was just talking about that in the high school level. You build a winner and you culture and you expect it, right? I mean, that kind of starts to matter this time of year. And how much did that national championship last year maybe breed some of the success that you guys are playing with right now?
Yeah, no, for sure. And it's like I told them early in the year that we're the defending national champion until someone takes it from us, right? So we should carry ourselves that way, and we should, play with confidence and walk around as a confident team.
How different are you guys this year versus last year? It looks like you can swing it like you did a year ago, but how different relative to that team where you really came on strong at the end of last year and made a great run into winning that national title?
Yeah, no, I mean, statistically, I think we're better, right? I mean, I think we're definitely deeper pitching. And the couple players we did lose last year that were really good players for us, we've replaced them with different types of players, right? I mean, Kendall Catherwood, who had a really high batting average, stole a lot of bases. And, we replaced her with Bailey Laguerre, who transferred to us from Western Nebraska, and she's hitting 390, I think, with 20 home runs, right? So she's added some power and that kind of stuff. Not the stolen base numbers, but we also have a freshman, Janelle Cruz, who's between the two of them, they've made up for the stolen bases, and we've added a ton of power.
That's the identity of your program right now, right? Obviously, you want to be able to pitch it and play defense, but I mean, you have kind of said you're basically, hey, we're going to bang it, right?
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, our hitting philosophy is to hit doubles and home runs, right? I mean, that's, we want to go up, have really good swings, get the barrel, be on time and on plane, and get balls into the air and into the gaps.
This time of year, obviously you want to do it. Is it a little harder to rely on it when you get into this stretch of the season, and therefore what you've been able to do on the mound or in the circle, and then defensively that will come into play and maybe be a little bit more, on high alert?
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, in the home, you can't count on the home runs, right? But the other day I think we played Lake Sumter. We had 13 hits, we had 8 doubles and 2 home runs. So
you'll take that every day.
Driving the balls into the gaps, I think, and it can kind of play throughout the season.
How much? So you guys get going here this weekend in a couple of days, and you're hosting. You after winning the state tournament, now you host this regional. And how big a deal is that part of it, that you're hosting it at your own place?
Yeah, no, it's a big deal. I mean, it's, so far we're undefeated this season at home. I think our newspaper guy told me the other day we'd won 40-something games at home in a row, dating back to last year. So,
wow. I
mean, it's a big deal, and it's a big deal for the community. I mean, we're in a small town. The community really supports us, and, we had really big crowds this past weekend, and looking forward to the same thing this weekend.
Well, by the way, if you want to go check out some St. John's River against Central Alabama at 6 o'clock on Friday night, Game 2 will be 2 o'clock in the afternoon on Saturday, Game 3 if necessary. So do you like this format that you guys we're talking about formats in high school ball quite a bit. Do you like the format where you'll play a best of 3 against Central Alabama?
Yeah, no, I definitely like the best of 3 format. I think in a one-game situation, anything can happen, but, a 2 out of 3 series, I think at the end of the day, the best team's gonna win that.
What? Give us some more about some of your players. I know you guys have a bunch of accolades, and shout out a couple other ladies that have really helped you guys out this year. I know it's a whole team effort, but you got Players of the Year and All Conference team. Give us a little bit more about your squad.
Yeah, no. Princess Arredondo is Player of the Year this year. She's our single season and career home run leader. She hit 25 home runs last year. She's hit 22 this year, also hitting, I think she's hitting 508 right now with, I think, 5 or 6 strikeouts on the year. So big time power numbers and not very many strikeouts. Then we have Alyssa Valad, who's Pitcher of the Year. She threw 4 no-hitters throughout the season. She's also a hitter. She hit 19 home runs last year. She has 19 this year, and she's hitting about 440. We're super deep. I mean, offensively, we have a lot of players that can really swing it. Again, Janelle Cruz has come on strong, as a freshman. I mean, she's second on the team in hitting batting average as a freshman. I think she's hitting like 480. And Princess actually she got her 100th hit the other day. So,
wow, in 2 years.
Yeah. No 100 hits this year.
100 hits this year?
Yes.
Oh, I thought you meant career hit.
No, she has 100 hits this year. Yeah, no, she's going to have between her and Alyssa Valad, they're going to have all the career offensive numbers.
Wow.
Based on those 2 years being here.
50-9 record, by the way. You've won 30 in a row. Does that scare you at all, that you're on such a winning streak?
No, I'm not a big believer in that, let's lose one and then get fired up again. I mean, to me, I tell them all the time, good teams find reasons to play hard no matter what kind of game it is. We did a little bit of live at bat stuff today, and we try to make that competitive as well.
Yeah, last year you guys won on a walk-off home. I mean, it's just unbelievable, the drama and everything, and how you got it done. When you get out of this state and now to if you were able to get it out this weekend, how do you feel like your stuff during the year plays at that level? I mean, there's probably good junior college softball around the country, but I mean, how much does this get you ready this whole year of 59 games, mostly in the state of Florida, get you ready for that national landscape? Yeah,
no, and I think it's our early on schedule. When we're playing the Division I JUCOs in Florida, you look at the rank. I mean, a lot about those with with Kmart playing at Daytona this year, but they have 7 or 8 teams ranked in the top 15 or 20, and we play those guys during our non-conference schedule, right? So I think the biggest thing I think for us last year was we get to the World Series, and yeah, there's some good teams around, but there's not a ton of competition, not a lot of depth there, and so we were used to playing that 5-3 game, 6-4 game, where a lot of those teams had kind of run through their regions and had a bunch of blowout wins, and really didn't get tested a lot.
Yeah, by the way, I don't know why you didn't play Daytona State this year, but with your lineup, I'm kind of glad you didn't.
We actually tried. We had when we had a couple games, TCC and State College of Florida dropped on us, so we tried to get them, but couldn't make it work there at the end.
Do you feel like, obviously you've got a nice run with a group of these core players, but do you also feel like you kind of figured this out a little bit? And I know you never do. Every year change, but do you have like a recipe, whether it's recruiting, the style that we talk about, the kind of young lady you're looking for, like all that? Do you kind of feel like you're in a good place where you can duplicate some of this success moving forward, along with, obviously, some of this will recruit itself?
Yeah, no, obviously, winning helps, getting some attention and, having players reach out to us from, all over the country, that kind of thing. But really for me, and even Callie Jones, our pitching coach, is, when we're out recruiting, we're not necessarily looking for the best players. We're looking for the players we think we can help get better, right? So obviously from an offensive standpoint, with, being able to hit doubles and home runs and that type of thing, there's certain things I'm looking for in players. And, sometimes I may pass on a player that's a really good player, like a slapper, for example, because I'm not good at that, right? And I don't think it would be fair to that player for me to bring them in if my strengths don't match up with their strengths for helping them try to move on to the next level. So, we have I definitely have a type that I like, and just, being able to see some players on the recruiting trail that fit kind of what we're trying to do, and at least looks like someone that we can help get better. Because if we can't help them get better, then we're not going to be any good.
Bill Pound, the softball coach of St. John's River, on the verge, hopefully, if they could win a best-of-3 series this weekend, heading back to the national championships. They are the defending national championship in Division II junior college softball, running off a 50-9 record so far this year, and back at it again. It's interesting to hear you say that. So much of this show, Coach, that we do and is trying to get some players looked at or more exposure or talk the game of softball and baseball. And the landscape has changed so much. We're all still trying to figure it out. But I think it's kind of cool to hear you say develop, because quite honestly, I don't know if people look at it that way anymore. I think so many people look at it as almost transactional, where it's like, hey, let's go get a player because we can, whether it's off the portal or anything else. I feel, is that the beauty of junior college right now, where you can still say, hey, we think we're going to have a player for 2 years. We can teach and develop and not maybe be threatened as much by the movement going on in other, whether it's Division I or Division II softball.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, development is what we want to do, right? And people get in. People talk about the transfer portal and all this kind of stuff. And the original transfer portal was junior college sports. Yeah, now it's moved on, and a lot of stuff has kind of changed that. But there's a lot of really good players that come out of junior college that now even some of these opportunities with the transfer portal are giving them a raw deal in some cases. But again, there's some really good players here. Players that come to us have a little chip on their shoulders. They want to develop. They want to get better. They want to get out there, and that's what we want. That's the players we want is players who feel like maybe they should have been somewhere better. I tell them all the time, if St. John's River was your dream school growing up, I don't want you. Right, we want you to come in, and it becomes a really good option, right, when things happen, especially these days with the portal and those types of transactions going on. But yeah, no, the development part of it is what I love to do, and that's what makes us good, is we have players that invest into that and want to get better.
All right, before we let you go, help us educate the kid watching right now, that high school softballer maybe looks at St. John's River. You're very good the last couple of years. Where do they go after? And I know, and how does that work? Because this is probably the time, you don't know maybe exactly where everybody's going, because I think over the next month you probably will learn that a little bit more. But where have people gone from St. John's River even your national championship year. We know K-Ray and Kendall Catherwood, she went down to Florida International, is having a great career down there at FIU, or a great season. So can you shed some light on what happens after junior college in the 2 years?
Yeah, no, and the best thing for me, the thing I like the most about junior college is, we can recruit players with all types of ceilings, right? I mean, everything doesn't have to be Division I. So, we have several Division II players, some NAIA players, that kind of stuff that have left here. I won't get specifically into where some of these girls are going because they're in the middle of
fair
negotiations and offers and that kind of stuff. But I mean, you're going to see 5 or 6 of these at some really good programs in the next year.
Yeah, so that's cool. So again, just from if you're a high school mom, dad, coach, and don't know much about the junior college system, trust me, I'm kind of learning about it this year too on the fly, a little bit different. So it's interesting to see how it works in today's landscape. We're all trying to figure out. All right, let's leave you with this. What do you know about Central Alabama? Like how much you haven't played them? How much scouting can you do? Have you done? What do they bring to the table? What are the challenges this weekend? Other than I assume they're a pretty good team if they made it to this point.
Yeah, no, and I don't want this to come off the wrong way, but I don't know much about them. Our thing. I talked to Coach Callie the other day. We have things that we do well that have been successful, and we want to scout ourselves more than the other team, right? Because I don't want to go in. We're going to take our best game into it, and we need to make some adjustments along the way. Then we'll do that, but. I don't want to go in doing something different based on who we're playing, especially in the JUCO world, where the regions and the landscape is very different in a lot of ways.
That makes some sense. By the way, you pretty healthy, or you feel pretty good about health of your team at this stage? That's always a question mark.
Yeah, no, we're knock on wood, we're good right now. Everybody's feeling good. We'll have another little light practice tomorrow, and then we'll get rolling Friday.
All right, Friday, 6 o'clock, and then game 2, 2 o'clock on Saturday afternoon. We'll keep an eye on the weather forecast. Hopefully that doesn't mess things up too much. And a game 3 later on Saturday. Coach Joe Pound from St. John's River, good luck. We'll be watching the Vikings close once again.
All right, appreciate it, Brent.
You bet. That is Joe Pound from St. John's River. Over the last couple of years, baseball and softball has gone to national championships, and softball won it last year in dramatic fashion. Couple of those players back, build a new team, and they've continued success, which, by the way, is not always easy to do at junior college level, because you kind of might build sometimes for, like, the freshmen come in and you build it into the sophomore, you have a nice year, but then you got to recycle it quicker than other schools, although other schools are now recycling at a faster rate than ever before. No gate fees presented by Republic Services, by the way, recyclingsimplified.com, as we mentioned that. I do want to get into softball, and we will with Randall and, we just did with Joe Pound, but high school softball in just a moment. We'll go over some scores, and I may even ask Randall in a little bit about it because she knows so much about softball in the area. But before we get there, Hamby, did you see this new rule that might take place in high school sports or in the state of Florida? There's legislation.
Some public school coaches might be pretty excited about this one.
Yeah, well, it's interesting because you're at a private school, and we're talking about St. John's Country Day and also Trinity Christian, and they're into the Final Four. And, part of the reason, I think a lot of the area, a lot of the coaches and everything else, and I don't think it's anything personal when it comes to public school versus private school. Let me get that out of the way. But I do think there's like this subconscious always, or maybe very conscious, just view of, all right, they do things differently. They can do things differently. And that has been the fact. They can do things differently. Bowls can operate different than Mandarin. Fact. Trinity Christian, St. John's Country Day, operate differently than Clay, Bartram Trail, you name it. Whether you want to call it full-out recruiting or there's homeschool rules now where you can pick and go play if you're homeschooled, like that is a real thing. And we are seeing some of the successful programs, at least in baseball, and I'm sure in other sports too, have those rules to their advantage and be able to utilize them. And Trinity and St. John's have been two of the best programs in the state. So they're not breaking any rules, by the way, folks. Like, some people don't like it. They're not breaking rules. Like, these are just the way it is. Well, I think there's some public school animosity toward a lot of that, just naturally because they're not operating under the same kind of rules, if you will. And we could be what I wonder here is if this next thing is about to close that gap.
Right.
I don't know if it will, but I wonder if it will. And essentially what it is let's say this. Why did I get some numbers in this description? Let me see if I can go find. It's weird. I got the description here, so this will work. An individual home education student is eligible to participate on an interscholastic athletic team at any public school in the school district in which the student resides. Okay, so
if you homeschool, you could play at any public school.
So if you live right next to Nice High School and you homeschool, if you want, you can go play at Ponte Vedra, Bartram Trail, Creekside, St. Augustine. You can't go play at Mandarin.
Right.
Because that's not in the district. But you can go play at any of those schools. Now, that is different. That really opens this up to be more Wild Wild West than ever before. And I guess I'm not surprised we've been trending this way. I think specifically in St. Johns County, this becomes very interesting because the problem is that you have already been able to transfer and move schools more frequently. It's been free agent Florida to begin with. But in St. Johns County, they're so overpopulated in their schools that you have to have a seat available for that person to come in. Well, there are no seats available. So the only way to really do what I just said is to live next to Nice or in the, where you would go to school and then go to a Bartram Trail or somebody else as if you're in that educational program. They all offer different educational programs, so you can move to a school to be a part of that educational program. Sure. And so that's about to change. If this gets passed, by the way.
Where are we at with this?
So this is up for, I guess, the next session to be able to be voted on. And if this approved, then I think it will go into effect immediately. And now you'll start to see, I guess, a little bit more of what we've been, I've kind of argued to a degree, and Covenant might be the same thing for you guys, but I've argued Trinity and St. John's. This is why I say I jokingly, not really jokingly, but kind of jokingly, I think they should play each other. They're two premier programs in the state, two premier programs in our area, and quite frankly, they're two of the programs that play under the same rules. So it's not all the same, at least the way I understand it. So can you guys play a best of 3 series just for fun here in Jacksonville? Can we please get that together? And I'm going to sponsor that at some point. We are going to get that. I'm going to talk them into it.
Okay.
But I think with this thing, at least the way I interpret it and what it feels like from what I've talked to people, well, now other people are going Bartram Trail they're going to probably, I shouldn't be bringing up specific schools. Name your school. And this is
your
everybody.
Public school, yeah.
You can basically say, hey, if you're homeschooled, which will lead parents to going to the homeschool option, which has already increased anyway. They will go to the homeschool option and then say, I want to go play for Coach so-and-so, or I want to go play on this team because they're stacked, and I think more people are going to see it, or I want to go win, or I don't like this. Under the high school umbrella, normally, you don't really get a say if you like the high school coach or not. Under this umbrella, you're going to get that say. Now, I don't know what the ramifications of it are and how it's going to play out. I guess it's a matter of how much schools embrace it.
Right.
I think that will be up to administration and coaches if it gets passed. But I think there's a feeling that this is going to get passed. That's my understanding of it.
All right.
Who the heck knows what's going on in politics? But I think there's an understanding that it could get passed. So, how do you feel about it?
I don't see any issue. If private schools can do it, I would say public schools should be able to go get a homeschooler too. And I know there's always limits on how many homeschoolers you can get, even for private schools.
There are. That's
right.
true. And it's an important fact to bring up. I think there's a number. I don't know what that number is.
I believe it was 5.
It might not even be that high, but it might be
something
5.
like that. But I think it evens the playing field a little bit. And I know a lot of these public schools aren't playing private schools regardless. But my question is, how many times will a kid choose a public, because the kid would still have to choose going to the public school over the private school, right? Well, there's a lot of, and I say there's going to be plenty of cases where they want to go to a public school, but if the kid always sees that the teams that are winning states are the two private schools, right? Or St. John's Country Day and Trinity just recently, but historically, I guess in the last decade, a lot more private schools have won baseball.
Oh, no doubt.
Okay, so will they still be picking the private school over the public school? Right.
Well,
and that's an individual case. A lot of that could be distance from home, right? How easy it is to get from all of those things.
Not only that, heavy, but distance from home, but also what if they meet their cap? Let's just say the cap was 5,
right?
And now you can't bring in another kid so now you got to go. It's first come, first serve. I don't know. Like, again, we're going to figure this out, but I just think that's an interesting development because one of the things, again, the stigmas is it's public and private. You're playing different rules. Well, this actually bridges that.
Yeah.
So I think you could potentially now, you close the gap in that conversation. And this isn't a conversation in every sport. Obviously, we're in the baseball world and softball world a little bit more. So in baseball specifically, it's a heavy conversation.
Sure.
Because we got a lot of talent. But if you look at the most recent members or teams going to the Final Four, there aren't a lot of public schools still going to the Final Four to get to that level, which means you need one more guy.
Yeah.
Like you might need one more pitcher.
Yeah.
Well, this might open the idea of you getting one more pitcher. And I'm not telling you I love this because I like the community aspect of public schools.
But it's where we're at.
And by the way, when you go to a Final Four, because it doesn't happen all the time, it means a lot. Like that means you really did something to get to a Final Four. Oh, one other last note, by the way. I wasn't going to bring this up, but I'm going to bring it up. I just want you to note, Hamby, I didn't add up how many runs were scored, how many lead changes, and how many ties there were in the 6th and 7th innings and 8th and 9th innings of yesterday's games, which also makes it important to play a full 7 innings in the regional finals.
Got it, baby.
Got to bring it up.
You got to.
All right, let's go out to West Nassau, my favorite place, Callahan. And I think Randall and Bryant, the softball coach for West Nassau, is ready to go and hopefully ready to go for her softball team tonight. Coach, regional quarterfinals, it's go time almost out there. You excited? I got a thumbs down from Hamby. And not that Coach Randall isn't excited.
I think she dropped and tried to come back in.
We'll get her in a second.
Yes.
Hey, I was sketchy about that. We had Coach on the baseball side. We got it went through. But we got to find a good spot, and hopefully we'll be able to get Coach Randall and Brian on. Let me take you through the softball side of things right now. University Christian in 1A, Christ Church home as well, University Christian's home. Peniel Baptist and Harvest Community play tonight. So we will keep an eye on those games. In 2A, we need if she's listening. I don't know if she's listening. Let me see if I can text her real quick, Amby. Hang on a second, folks. Got to text, see if she can jump back in. I'll text her that, but I can't talk and do that. I can, but it doesn't come out right. All right, so here we go. Baldwin and Freeport play tonight at Baldwin. Great place to watch a game. Episcopal wins last night in softball, 7-0. You know, Episcopal's 22-5, and I actually said this to a couple of folks. They've had a really nice year. They lost Grace Jones, one of the best players in the state. Dominant career, really good career. She's at Mercer now and playing well. And just a great job by Coach Epley and everybody at Episcopal. And they had talent coming back, but that was a lot to replace. And they're 22-5 and on to the regional semis. And we could get Baldwin and Episcopal again, which has been like a yearly occurrence.
Wait, is Arnold playing Clay?
Yeah, I was getting to that in a minute.
Wasn't that not the matchup the same in baseball?
It was, yeah. So, and I was actually thought about it for a second. They would, like Arnold would have come over and played baseball. I almost wondered if they would have taken the same bus. Like, seriously, they could have.
They could fit, yeah.
Because they would have came over here today. So they could have taken the same bus. Bishop Kenny's at Wakulla. That one on the road in 3A. Paxton beats South Walton 13-3. And I guess this is a good time to do this. Congratulations to Steve Brown. He's going to be our Perfect Rack Billiards Coach of the Week this week on the softball side of things. Really nice year. Won the district last week. And Paxton, always a good program. And they get a good win over South Walton at home 13-3. They will await the winner, potentially a rematch with West Nassau from the district championship game That will take place next Tuesday. So, Steve Brown, congratulations on a nice year. And you are our Perfect Rack Billiards Coach of the Week, which means a $100 gift card. Make sure you head out to Perfect Rack Billiards all the time, even if you get the gift card or not. Great spot to take your coaching staff. Great spot to have some lunch, open Friday, Saturday, and Sunday for lunch. And a great spot to watch some Major League Baseball, too, as they've got the out-of-town games for you as well. Still no go on Randallin. I'll keep going with some scores. West Nassau and Sewanee play tonight. I was thinking about in and out, but I'm a little concerned about the weather. The weather could be a little tricky tonight, and I got to do live TV at 6:50. So if I got lightning to deal with, that's not good. And also driving out about an hour to Callahan if we're going to have weather problems. But I kind of want to go see a game out there, so I was thinking of it. We'll see. But they play tonight at West Nassau, home game for the Warriors, and hopefully we'll get Coach Randallin on in just a moment, but we're having a little bit of difficulty with the connection. Columbia wins 16-0 at Escambia. Menendez will play at Fort Walton Beach tonight. You mentioned Clay and Arnold. That one will be at Clay. Nice district championship win for Clay this year. And Baker County, state runner-up last year, I think probably the premier team in the area all season, although it's been back and forth a little bit. They get Choctaw tonight, and we will see how they do, as they will be at home as the top seed as long as they go through these playoffs. Keep in mind, softball is not a best of three. That's a baseball thing. Softball is still a one game. I guess I should have brought that up. In Class 5A, Middleburg, one of the top teams in the area, at home against Milton. They're the 3 seed. It'll be a really interesting matchup in round 2 if Matanzas beats Ponte Vedra. You could get Middleburg and Matanzas. Matanzas is one of the top arms in the state, and Leah Stevens. We've had her on the show before. She's a Florida Gator commit, and Middleburg's always strong. So that'll be an interesting one to watch. Childs and Fleming Island. Fleming Island's had a nice year. They'll play tonight at Childs. And then we go to 6A. I'm just doing local teams here, by the way. Fletcher is at Pace. Good one between Oakleaf and Bartram Trail in the first round, 4-5 game. That'll be at Oakleaf coming up tomorrow. Some of these games are tomorrow. And that is it in the locals for 6A. And then 7A, you've got 2 teams. Atlantic Coast won that wild game. Have we had a show since that game?
When was that, last Thursday?
Was it last Thursday? Yeah, I think it was last Thursday. We haven't done a show. I should have mentioned that game. Atlantic Coast beat Creekside 19-18. There were 25 runs scored in the final 2 innings. It was unbelievable.
That's insane.
No, seriously. Like, a lot of times you'll be like, yeah, that was the craziest game I've ever seen. No, that was the craziest game I've ever seen. And I watch a lot of softball now. It was nuts. Creekside was up 16-11. 11-6 and 18-11. And lost in 8 innings. They gave up 5 to tie for Atlantic Coast in the 7th. And then Atlantic Coast scored 8 in the 8th. And there were a lot of sloppy moments in those games, but not in the 7th inning. The 7th inning, I think I counted, for both teams, there were 15 runs scored on 13 hits. And you start with a runner on second. Cow. So, like, they earned it. Like, the ball just kept dropping. There were only 3 walks in that game, Hamby, which means the ball was in play. So the pitchers did their job.
Well, I mean,
they kind of did their job.
They're finding some barrels.
And there were some barrels, but it's just one of those, you've played ball long enough. You have one of those games where, like, everything falls.
Yeah.
Like, everything falls. Like, and when it's 18-11, it's still not over. Like, you just knew. Well, I thought at 18-11 it was over. At 16-11, I didn't think it was over. It's like there's still some goofy stuff that's going to happen here. And it did. But Atlantic Coast gets the home game because of that district title. We've highlighted them all year. They've had a great year, really doing a nice job building the program. And their top pitcher's hurt, and they're still able to. So they're going to have to swing it. Not like that, but they aren't relying on Morgan Brown like they were early in the year. Atlantic Coast plays a Pop Cup, and Creekside still in the playoffs despite that loss, and obviously can bang it now. They can swing it, and they've got some people on the mound that can get the job done too. They go to Spruce Creek. So Creekside at Spruce Creek as the 6th seed. That will be tomorrow night. All right, Hamby, give me an update. Are we striking out? She's muted. All right, let me see if she can unmute. You can't do that, huh?
No, sir.
If we can't get her in the next couple of minutes, we'll let her go to get ready for the game. We don't need to frustrate her or stress her out.
We need cooler heads going into this game tonight.
All right, we'll see if she can try it. She says she can hear us. We know. If you can unmute, Coach, if there's a microphone button on there. It's really hard to do live on the show, but we're trying. Anyway, all right, so what do we hit? We hit the softball scores. Baseball, we got 2 teams left. We got the public-private school thing, and I do want to just follow up on that. Like when I put a one-sheet out to a lot of coaches this year, a lot of coaches do lean on that. They're like, what can we do to kind of thwart that public-private school thing? Like there's a gap there. And so it's definitely on the minds of people. And I understand, like, listen, if you're running a private school program like Hamby's helping do, I'm not trying to come at from an attack standpoint. I just think it is a different standpoint. I think everybody's acknowledged that to the point, but I can also see why people get defensive about it.
Right.
Listen, and these are good programs, and they're good coaches, and they're good players, and they're good teams. But there's definitely this, like, and I don't know if everybody wants to talk about it all the time. I think people quietly want to talk about it all the time. I'm just not afraid to bring up the elephant in the room. Mm-hmm. And the elephant in the room is like that public-private school thing. And this goes way back. I always say this, like I was a public school guy, and I did not like the private schools growing up in Rhode Island. They were better. They had better everything. Facilities, resources, even back then, that was 30 years ago. I have a more appreciation for it after covering everything for the last, like I don't have animosity toward the private schools. I get it. And honestly, I like the loaded teams sometimes at least like when my kid was playing, I like play the best teams.
Sure.
And maybe try to beat them. And if you got to win against a really good team, that's a really great win. It's a memorable day. So there are various ways to look at it. All right, what do you think? Still no? She thought she had it. All right, Coach, just get out of here. You go win a game tonight. We'll get Coach Brian on next week maybe, if she's willing to talk to us. I can't figure it out. We don't know. Oh, I will say it might not be your fault, Coach, because we had some gremlins going on earlier on the show today, too, in the Brent and Austin show. So get on with your day. We won't bother you anymore. And good luck to Randall and Bryant in West Nassau tonight as they play Sewanee and then potentially Paxson after that. Yeah, Hamby, I can't figure it out because she's not muted. She sent me a picture. She's not muted. She's got her iPhone mic ready to go. But something's not working. I should have given her your number. You could have talked to her. Now I'm just talking to everybody, working through technology. All right. We appreciate her and trying to get in. Good luck today to West Nassau and everybody else playing. We're going to try to get some of these games. We'll see how the weather holds. I haven't seen the latest. Do you know what the weather looks like tonight?
Yeah, there's a decent chance of rain from what I've seen.
But like, are we talking like all night, or are we talking pass-through storm? If it comes at 5, we'll be okay. Any idea?
Well, actually now it says just cloudy until 8 and then rain after that.
Okay. Like Paxson moved their game up. They're smart over there now, Paxson. They moved their game up to yesterday to avoid potentially today, and it worked out. If it doesn't come in until 8 o'clock and it's more isolated in the area, a lot of games could get in today then. Hopefully that's the case. It could really be messy if you get them started and not finished. Please, FHSAA and everybody else, make sure the games are completed. Please. So I'm never going to stop talking about it, but I will maybe talk about it less. Hey, let's, where are we at? We got committed to the uncommitted? And, man, I should have given you video of Presley, too. I had like a couple of minutes of video I put out on Twitter. And, I will say often, I have prefaced this, we try to stay away from the Creekside kids. But sometimes we have like the Creekside kid that, like, hey, this is worthy.
Fits every category.
Yeah, and here's the deal. I could talk about, I watched her play for 3 years. And it was cool to watch her play in that Atlantic Coast game. And not many people would say this. And think about it. You had a 19-18 game, and there were like 18 errors in that game, depending on which game changer you looked at it. There was a lot of sloppy play earlier in the game, really, that led there were a lot of hitting in that game, too. There were 37 hits or 35 hits. But I've seen Presley play a lot, and a lot at third base. She was playing short now this year. I thought she was awesome in that game defensively. Now, she also had like 4 RBIs and 2 hits and banged one off the wall. She can swing it. But she's a really good player, really good athlete, good player, play that left side of the infield. I think maybe more third baseman than short, but she can play both. She got a heck of an arm. She got a hose, and she got power. I think she's one of the leading home run hitters in the area this year. I don't know the exact number, but this is where I said, like, I think she's getting some looks, junior colleges, maybe some Division IIs as well. She's also a basketball player, so I don't know how much that actually factors in.
Right.
Could it play both at the next level? I think she's capable. Does somebody give her the opportunity to do so? Does that change where she goes? But I've got to be honest, I'm a little surprised people aren't like all over her now already. Because I would have been as like, watching her play her freshman year, and she was coming off injury in her sophomore year, but even still, you can see the tools. Like sometimes I just don't understand what people are looking at or not looking at. And again, she'll go to camps and she'll get seen, and she's going to, I think, find a place to play. Just a little surprised. Maybe my eyes are different than others, that she's not like that. I got to put her on the show. Like, I'm a little surprised at that. Hey, I'm looking at you, Flagler softball. Like, you want a good local player who can bang it out of your small park? Like, here's my prediction, Hamby. I'll tell you this.
All right.
She goes, and I'm not telling you she even wants to go to Flagler or anything like that, but I've seen their park at Division II level. I've seen ball down there. They're good. Flagler's going to play in like the NCAA tournament.
Mm-hmm.
I have no idea what their home run record is, but I think she could challenge it if she played there for 4 years.
Okay.
I have no idea what their home run record is, and I would feel comfortable saying that. So, thing about Presley and these young ladies here is there's still time. So we're pretty early in the process. Summer will be big and important as well. But Maddie Strickland, Emma Ward, and Mallory Ficklin. And the reason why I wanted to bring these ladies up again is we did it a couple weeks ago on the show, but we did it real quick. And we're like up against the clock, which we normally are on the show. And these guys are going to get another opportunity right in the middle of the playoff run. They obviously come from one of the best programs in the area in Middleburg, what they've been able to do and establish over the last few years. And you're obviously looking at 3 different. So remember the names: Maddie Strickland, Emma Ward, Mallory Ficklin, and we'll continue to highlight them and where they play in the summer and where they could end up, but all looking to play college at the next level. A trio of Broncos from Middleburg, one of the top 40 teams in the state, get a 3 seed, and they'll play this week in the regional quarterfinals. So shout out to those young ladies. That might be it for our Committed to the Uncommitted this season. If you've got one that we have missed and we can mention next week on the show, we would love to do it. And I'm planning on potentially doing a summer show where we highlight them all over like an hour as well. So all the kids from this year, and we can catch people up to date where they've gone, maybe committed, because we did have some players early in the year, right, Hamby, that already have found homes, which is cool.
Absolutely.
So, all right, that's going to do it for No Gate Fees, presented by Nindy Buick GMC, Baker Sports, Republic Services, Perfect Rack Billiards. Congratulations to Coach Steve Brown, our Coach of the Week. Thanks to Randall and Bryant for trying to get in. Good luck to West Nassau tonight. Thanks to Joe Pound for shedding some light not only on St. John's River, who has a chance to go to the World Series if they can win a weekend series this weekend down in Palatka, but also for the high school kids watching and some of the recruiting in junior college ball. They've built a great program at St. John's River. And then talked a lot of ball, baseball, as well, with 2 local teams going to the Final Four, St. John's Country Day and Trinity Christian. Have a great day, everybody. Play well.